Welcome to Found, a podcast dedicated to hearing from entrepreneurs, business leaders, and those everyday humans with a story to tell. My name is Tom. I'm the host of Found. Join me each episode as we hear these impactful and powerful untold stories. This is Found. I have a lot of ideas, and I don't do many of them. And I find that a lot of them come after hours. And we just spoke this morning about what time did you get to bed last night? And for me it wasn't very early because of the whole ideas thing. But that's another thing to do with the manifestor, right?
Yeah, just understanding your energy and where you're going to get your inspiration from and things like that. But unfortunately, ideas don't come during the working day often.
And execution of ideas don't come as easy, perhaps.
Well, I listened to, I had a good friend send me a podcast earlier in the week to check out with Rick Rubin. Mm-hmm. And he kind of spoke into this exactly at the beginning of this podcast with Aubrey Marcus about ideas are like seeds, right? They come to you and you've got to plant them. But naturally, if you put 10 seeds in the ground, 2 or 3 of them are going to be stronger than the others. And you might want the first one to be the strong one, but it's just not. And you're giving them all the same water and sunlight and nutrients, but there's a couple that really take off. And so it's wise to continue giving and feeding those ones what they require, because not all 10 are going to be equal. And you've only got limited resources, limited energy, limited focus, and you can't apply it to all, because 1, 2, and 3 are not going to do as well as 4, 7, and 8. It's just, natural selection. It's the way things go. A lion might have 6 cubs, but only 2 make it to adulthood. It's the same with our ideas. So, don't put that pressure on yourself to feel like they all need to be equal or the same. Or truth is, you burn yourself out. You can't do that. And so, for me, when I feel like that, I will write down all my ideas in a journal or notes on my phone, and then I let them go, and I just watch which ones come back. You and I have discussed many ideas, and there's a few that loop, but there's a lot that just vanish. And so let them go, let them go. And eventually the ones that are continuing, like the podcast, here we are, get done.
It's almost like some of them will be completely aligned to where you're headed or what your strategy is right now, and some of them will be like some future version or even some past version of you. Yeah. What about that? I love that thing I saw the other day is the people that you used to know are used to an old version of you that no longer exists.
100%. 100%. And you interact with them and they expect you to behave like that.
Right.
It's it's almost like I had this sort of saying. It was these people from our past, they're looking for someone that's dead. And I say let them keep digging. They can keep digging because they're not going to find what they're looking for, especially when you've changed and shifted and moved on. You're not responsible for how others perceive you or feel about you, providing you're being caring and kind and doing good things in the world for yourself and for others. If you're not out there being a menace and intentionally hurting anyone, really, like, the opinions of others do not matter. And truth is, you don't like everyone, so not everyone's going to like you, and it's okay.
I love that that we don't have to get along with everybody. Not everyone in the world is going to be on the same page.
No. But I think something I have observed, you touched on being the observer, is as individuals, as a society, as a species, as a collective, as a community, our biggest obstacle, our biggest roadblock, the thing that holds us back the most is a lack of self-love. Everything else comes from that. You can say, I have money problems, I have trauma from my childhood, I have blah, 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 blah. Without self-love, you can't overcome any of them. And self-love is just showing up for yourself when you say you're going to. It's doing the things that you know are good for you. And so it's like, whilst we don't all need to like each other, if you're showing up for you, first and foremost, with self-love, like you would prioritize, a new partner or a new relationship that you're excited about, when we start dating ourselves and loving ourselves, the world will change. The world will shift because everyone's feeling good. It's often the people that don't feel so good about themselves are the ones that, want to pull other people down. And, we see it all the time here in Australia, the tall poppy syndrome. It's this idea that because you're doing well, I can't. Truth is, abundance is infinite. And you and I can both do equally well, as can everyone else. And our duty is to encourage and pull everyone to be the best versions that they can.
Yeah, that's so true. So what's your headline, Henry? What do you want to tell us about?
The theme that I've kind of just witnessed in myself this week is just like this concept of like just reviewing. You know, keeping yourself accountable and review, you know, like you would a new employee. If you just hired someone, you know, you're not going to let them just be rogue and continue. You're going to pull them up. And so this kind of concept of review yourself, be it daily, weekly, monthly, and check where you're going. You know, to be the observer of your life. And the other side of that is understanding your emotions and the role they play. You know, I think for us as men, we're not always educated or encouraged to necessarily feel into them, you know, especially as little kids. For both men and women, a lot of us were, you know, shamed for being angry or upset, or, you know, you would hear, okay, if you're going to behave like that, go to your room, you know, and it wasn't accepted. It wasn't okay to be angry. It wasn't okay to be anything but happy and joyful. So I think for us as men, like a lot of us suppress our negative emotions. We don't know what to do with them when they come up. We don't know what they mean. But truth is, our emotions are really beautiful guideposts to show us if we're in alignment with things that are good for us or we're not. So for me, this topic of self-reflection and review, taking a moment just to go, okay, what's working, what's not. And I think, you know, Sundays are a really beautiful day to do that. And just this concept of, you know, using your emotions to help you navigate.
Yeah, it's so true, and there's real power in taking the time on a Sunday. I've found as well, like to do that review or that kind of introspection, looking forward to what might be this week, what happened last week, and you know, how do I want to show up tomorrow morning?
Yeah.
So questions then, because I had a couple of questions for you, and I know you might have. I think you've got one or two for me. But I just had this list of questions that they're kind of like unusual ones that are particularly, well, they're for business. So I don't know, maybe reflecting on you in business. And I know that, you know, it's shifted and changed for you over the last, say, 5 years. But the first one here, and I don't know how you want to take this one, but it says, it asks you to rate on a scale of 1 to 10, how aligned did your year feel with your values in terms of where you spent your time and energy, and maybe even if it just stands out to you of how aligned did the last, say, 6 months feel to you, or whatever stands out about that.
Yeah, look, you know, we're in June now, 6 months this year. I would say very. In fact, the most in my entire life. You know, I've done many things, but for the place that I'm in at the moment, this would be the most focused and aligned I've ever been. You know, last year I spent 6 months in Thailand, and that was a really good chance for me to reflect and take time and just do different things. You know, you put yourself in a different environment, you think different thoughts, you get to show up differently. You know, travel's beautiful because you're meeting all these new people, right? They don't know who you were. They're not asking you, you know, who'd you used to be. They either like you or don't like you for who you are now. So it's a fresh slate, and I love that for travel. You know, I've been through a pretty turbulent few years just with different things, and I really needed that. And so it was in that time I was in Thailand and Bali that I kind of really refined what it was that I wanted to execute and wanted to do. You know, before that I had, you know, obviously had the businesses. I went back to PTing for a little while, sort of in between, and I knew that wasn't what I was going to come back to. And so, yeah, to answer your question, in terms of alignment with my values and what I'm doing and creating now, the most ever. And for me as a man, you know, seeking purpose and freedom, it feels incredible. It's a completely different energy to be working and creating in a space that feels good, that you know, serves you, is in service of others. I've built it in a way that still enables me to work online. I can travel, I can still show up for people. And so, yeah, personally, I'm in a really good place business-wise and just lifestyle-wise, and I'm proud of that.
Yeah, that's good. And it's sort of like being able to kind of do that, to make that big change or go on that trip or whatever. Like, I like what you said about travel, and one thing comes to mind. The last few weeks, I've done some workshops with some corporate businesses on the notion of self care, and one of the main recommendations is, if you've got to that place where it's a stalemate, or you've not gone on annual leave for a little while, go do something different. Go travel somewhere. Go. And it sticks out to me. One thing sticks out to me. I shared it a few weeks ago on my Instagram, but that scene in The Hobbit where Gandalf is coming to Bilbo and he says, "Would you like to come on an adventure?" And Bilbo says, "Adventures, terrible, nasty things. They'll make you late for dinner."
Yes.
And Bilbo kind of sits and he contemplates, and then he says to Gandalf, "Could you promise that I'll come back?" And Gandalf says, "No. And if you do, you will not be the same." And it's like the adventure is the opportunity to like circumvent, like to get out of that cycle, that round and round the roundabout, and do something different, and just kind of like, it's real. I think it's so powerful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we all need different things, but, for myself, I love that. I think the other side of that kind of goes hand in hand with that is this idea of learning, right? And when we're traveling or experiencing new things, we're still learning. We're learning about ourselves. We're learning about new relationship dynamics. We're learning about what we do like and what we don't like. And this is the beautiful thing of this human essence, is that you just like certain things and you just don't like certain things. And that's just how it is.
Yeah.
And so when you expose yourself to new places and foods and cultures and traditions, you're kind of learning more and more about you. So I think no matter where you're at, whatever you do, learn something. If you can't travel, that's cool, but enroll in a course or seek out a hobby or master something. Become the master of something in your space. And if you don't know what to do or you don't know what you want to master, then something like travel is a really cool way to kind of expose yourself to a variety of different experiences so that you can kind of hone in on something. And I think, just to answer your previous question about like the why as to why I'm in such a good place now, is because I've stopped saying yes to everything. And I've just become really kind of precise about what I want to get good at and what's important to me, and putting my energy and focus into those things has been a game changer.
The power of no.
The power of no, right? Because the truth is, you can do anything, but you can't do everything, right? And you just gotta pick the thing and get really good at it. But only if you enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, don't get good at it. Because what's the point?
That's so true. My answer to that question for me is, I think that I would say the last 6 months, on the scale of 1 to 10, I'm probably going to rate it maybe a 4. And it's simply because BFound has had to take a back seat for me. From the whole notion of transitioning from corporate to your own consulting or your own business, it didn't go as quickly as I thought, and not as smoothly either. But in saying that though, I remember towards the end of last year, or it was sort of around August last year, and it was desperate. I got into that desperation time, and out of desperation came these lame Instagram posts. The desperate times kind of, coming up with. I think I put up there that I would offer like some kind of emergency hotline. It's still on there, I think, where a business owner could call me and ask for emergency HR advice. It's probably a thing, I don't know. Some business owners at 10 p.m, the whole notion of it was 10 p.m, a business owner sitting there going, "Oh, I've got this issue or this problem, and it's a people problem, and I don't know what I can do." Or the ability to unload with somebody is something that I think has been quite powerful with my existing clients. So it was trying to get, but it was the desperation, and it was the trying and the striving. It wasn't like a free flowing thing. It was a forcing it thing, and I gave up on that. And it's felt better now to have, I've got some the money coming in with some of the corporate jobs that I'm doing, and that allows me then in the after hours to be able to do stuff that probably flows a little bit more freely, and put that energy to those 2 things rather than trying to do the 10 things.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And I think the other truth of that is if you know where you're going, and you are willing to face that direction and just keep going, you will get there. Right? If I say I'm going to go from here to Sydney, I can fly, I can drive, I can bike ride, I could walk, I could crawl, I could kayak if I wanted to. There are multiple ways of me getting there. And if I use a tool like maps on my phone, it's going to calculate the quickest route to get there, right? So providing I continue to face Sydney and I continue to take action that aligns with that, I will get there. And if I crawl, I won't get there as quick as if I fly. I'll still get there. And this is this kind of analogy you can apply to any concept in your life of whatever it is you want to achieve. Whether it's a beautiful relationship, whether it's a financial abundance, whether it's, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. If you're willing to face that result and continue to take action, you will get there.
Yeah, and I don't know, a friend of mine talks about the unforced rhythms, and I use that a little bit now as well, because the forcing something doesn't work, whether it's relationship, friendship, whatever the heck it is. My book actually, when we do our books later, has a little bit on that. But forcing stuff doesn't work, and it comes out of insecurity. To force something comes from a fear that it's not going to work out on its own, a fear that I have to intervene and change the scope of where things were going to go and control it and manage it, and it just doesn't work, and it drains the energy out of any man, and it's sort of like I'm a big advocate for it's not about allowing things to be, although it is. It's not about no effort, because I think that's not, there has to be some effort on our part as well. But there's an acknowledgement that sometimes stuff happens and it can either be in alignment with where you're meant to be or not, and then we can have the choice to either change the status quo or change what's going on or not, and not force it, not keep trying to control whatever the heck we're trying to, whatever the outcome is we're trying to get to.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just having allowance.
Right.
And I think that's the beautiful thing about goals, right? Is goals are not endpoints. We perceive them as destinations. But truth is, goals are just the guideposts on the way, on the journey. Because it doesn't end, right? It doesn't end. And you'll know anyone that's achieved a goal, there's something after that, right? And so it's, as you say, it's just noticing, okay, I'm forcing, it's not flowing. I'm not doing this anymore. And I'm going to shift my direction. Like one of my little mantras that I say, most days or mornings is, universe, if it's meant for me, make it easy and make it feel good. And if it's not, make it hard and make it feel bad. And I can navigate my day crystal clear like that. Because if stuff's showing up and it feels good and it's happening easily, cool, this is good for me. And if it's not, and I'm having to do anything that makes me uncomfortable in terms of, pushing or forcing, I let it go.
How good are slam shut doors right in your face?
Oh, powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah, they set you free.
It's a no. It's a no. Wrong path, wrong door.
Absolutely.
Try somewhere else.
Well, they say rejection is redirection.
So true. Yeah.
And in that context, you can be so grateful for rejection. There's been many people in hindsight that I can just go, thank you. Thank you for keeping that away from me.
Yeah. There's someone I know who's coming to mind, and they're excellent at doing the next thing. To contrast, for example, is say for example I reach a particular goal, or I do a thing that I intended to do. It kind of lingers for a while. I sit in it and I think about it and dwell on it, and I might, if it's about a place, I might revisit the place, or if it's not this other fella I'm thinking of, a mate of mine, he's excellent at just going to the next, not looking back, and whether it's a positive thing or a negative thing, that's the substance of what I'm talking about. There's so much power in just that free movement as opposed to attachment. Attachment to outcomes, positive or negative, versus freely just going to one thing and on to the next, and just is sort of like this free kind of movement that seems so sweet. That's good to try to master. I'm certainly not a master at it, but I'm getting better at it. I love it.
Yeah. I mean, the yogis call it, follow your bliss.
Right.
When I'm working with people and they got choices, I say, which one excites you the most? And that's the truth in a lot of these spiritual teachings, even religious teachings, is say you need to raise your vibration as high as possible. Do the thing that feels the best for you.
Yeah.
And it can be that simple. And it's not about, disregarding your job and spending all day at the beach because you like the beach more than your job, right? That's a small, narrow view. You've got to go big picture, right? But when you go, okay, well, this is the life I'd like to create for myself. I'm going to do this job for now, and I'm going to save all my resources from this, and I'm going to put them into this project. Now everything serves a purpose.
And the energy that you put into this job, and I'm gonna do this job really well. And yep, it's not exactly where I want to be yet, but I'm gonna pour into it and make it good. I'm not just gonna come in half-assed every day. That shifts as well. That changes the the ball game, I reckon.
Yeah, man. Yeah, gratitude is the
True.
attitude, right?
Yeah.
When you're grateful for something because you can see the big picture of why you're doing it, it's powerful.
Do you want another question?
Yeah, let's go.
Am I relevant? Will I be relevant 5 years from now, 10 years from now? And by I think business-wise, is Pneuma relevant? And will it be relevant 5 years from now, 10 years from now?
100%. Because even from day one till now, Pneuma's changed consistently. It's changed as I've changed. So I know that as I change and adapt, so will what I'm sharing and creating. And so in that sense, yeah, absolutely. I have no idea what that means or looks like, but I think when you stand still, you're going backwards, right? Because everything else is going forward. So as long as you are adapting and observing and making necessary changes as to what's important and what's doing well and what's not doing well, then you will continue to do well in whatever you're doing.
It does seem like people are more open to, perhaps, or it's opening up where people are searching for someone to help them, or something or some resource to help them, do better, be better, feel better. And so, will you be relevant in 5 years, 10 years? I actually was reflecting on, the whole COVID situation where people became, we had to be in our house, we were locked down, and in the corporate world particularly, there was this whole kind of thing that, and it's around digital transformation, which is a little bit to do with a lot to do with my work, but the whole thing that digital technology or technology is the new normal, and it's changing the face of how we do business or how we live life. I actually wonder if digital and technology, it's actually the old. In fact, it's been around for a while and we're quite used to it. I feel like what's coming around in the roundabout is connection and the ability to be to sit and to be aware and to be conscious and to have a meaningful connection one-on-one. In-person services is not the old, it's the new. The digital kind of services perhaps are the old, and so it's sort of like, maybe for Pneuma, is it relevant? Well, it's incredibly relevant now, but it'll increase and increase and increase, and other coaches and people that do like what you do and teach like what you teach will only become more relevant because it's teaching people exactly that. How do I reconnect if I'm unsure how to do that? I grew up in the digital age where we had to be on our devices.
Yeah, I like how you put that. That's a really cool kind of observation. But you're right. The more we jump into these black mirrors, the more disconnected we become. And so there are a lot of people looking for themselves, and a lot of people not realizing that yet also. But you're absolutely right. I think we're going to see more of these old or most traditional qualities coming back. And we're moving. I say there's three truths, right? There's taught or told truth, which is what we've been operating in. You do what the doctor tells you because he's the doctor. You follow what the teacher says because it's the teacher. It's a taught truth, right? This is this and that is that. You don't question it. We're shifting away from that. We're moving into an experiential truth of, well, what I've experienced is true for me, and what you've experienced is true for you. Therefore, your truth and my truth are different, but they're both truth, right? And so, people aren't so likely now to go, okay, well, where's your qualification? Show me your piece of paper. They're not doing that. They're going, how can you help me, and how much is it going to cost? Yeah. And so we're moving into this place of experience being the ultimate kind of asset to have, right? And if we tie this in with business, it's like if you're in a space where you may be wanting to step out of what you've been doing and wanting to step into a new space or start a new business, study. You don't need to go to uni, you don't need to do it the old school way, but learn. Fill your buckets with as much knowledge as possible. Because the more knowledge you have, the more valuable you are. And so just learn, keep learning, keep learning, keep learning. And then people will naturally come to you and you know what they need. You've got something to give and to share. And so if we go back to the other side of kind of what you were touching on, it's like when we're in a service-based business or any business, people often wanted to create from a place of almost ego and being emotional in that they're creating something that feels good for them, right? But the truth is we need to start providing and creating for what people are coming to us with or about, right? And so we're becoming more responsive. And to become responsive, you need to have knowledge and wisdom and experience. And so the more stuff you can go and do, the more experience you've got, the more people you can help, right? And so this is why no one can do it for you. No one can do it for you. You have to do it for yourself, and then you can help others.
Yes, and the absence of help from someone else. If somebody says, well, I don't need to have anyone show me, I don't need a guide, I don't need to read anything, it's sort of like, okay, but it's insular. You subscribe to your own thoughts and patterns of yesteryear.
Yeah, man. Yep. Yeah. And as you know, it's like I can't think of the percentage, but it's very high of your thoughts you had yesterday are the same today.
Yep.
And it's your thoughts that create your reality, and therefore your reality doesn't change until you change.
Yes, it's so true. Here's my answer to are we relevant? Will we be relevant 5 years from now? I actually think for what I envisioned it to become, I think it's only going to become more relevant. The truth is the discipline that I operate out of it's widely unknown or not familiar, and so it's not been a palatable message that I've sold, where I offer an evidence-based approach to helping businesses build team and build good culture and see their strategic plans come to life. And so I feel like where corporate world is heading, and then business in general, the message is a little bit more palatable, where we see a little bit more of the notion of change management particularly has become a bit of a flavour because of the requirement to implement new systems and make sure everyone can work from home and work from their laptop, and people who are in a position in an organisation, when you change a process or give them new technology, they don't just do it because you say change. There's a lot of frameworks and models we use, and I would describe myself as a practitioner of those frameworks and models, but the everyday business owner is not out there looking for that. And so the palatable message that I'm attempting to continue to sell, I think, will be a little bit more mainstream maybe in the years to come. And so hopefully some of that will remain relevant. I think what will become less relevant and is the notion of like the old school HR, where it's giving advice based on legislation will always be a part of human resources, but it's not going to be sort of like this standalone island where you only go to HR for certain things. That HR will have a seat at the executive table to make decisions about anything within the business, reflecting on how do we plan for our people to have a part to play in whatever the initiative or the topic is to talk about, including those who are about to go broke. That I think that the people strategy has a part to play in businesses that acknowledge we're about to go broke here. I move a motion that we put ourselves into voluntary administration. Everyone say aye. Okay, the ayes have it. Well, the people strategy in HR have a part to play, and even in those areas as well. So I feel like it's been hard, but it's only going to get easier as the years go on and people are more open to some of that, I think.
So how did you get into doing what you've been doing?
I did Bachelor of Business in HR at uni in 2012. I finished that, and yeah, but after that, I had been in several kind of management roles in hotels. They have a role called a duty manager or manager on duty. And it's the person who basically just puts out fires all night, and was mainly on like sort of like a 3 p.m. to 11:30 p.m. shift, and had so many stories I could tell you about that, where there's a lot of drunk people, and you'd get called to. And I worked in mainly larger hotels, one in Brizzy, one up here on the coast, and two on the coast here. Anyway, so having done all of that, it was a natural kind of progression after I finished uni that I went into the HR space. But man, I was only in there. I was in there for maybe like 2 or 3 years in what we would call like a generalist HR role, and I hated it. I was not good. I don't know. I'll have to ask that question whether I was good at it or not. I'm not sure. I think I was okay at it, but like having to give advice to managers about, well, you've already issued 2 written warnings. Let's move to termination. I was so negative. Like it was a negative environment in a high-profile organisation at that time. Which, I'm thinking of one particular period of time, and there's probably there's some stories, but high profile organisations with thousands of employees, it's high pressure, and I didn't love it, but I found and fell in love with the area of HR called organisational development, which is kind of like an offshoot, and you might even describe it. A mentor of mine who's an organisational psychologist really shone a light on that area of practice for me, and that's kind of where I moved into. And it's the more strategic people approach. No one comes to me in the corporate world for advice about how to get rid of an employee or non-performing employees, but I do offer advisory services through Be Found. Now that I've said that I'm not good at the HR generalist advisory stuff, but my clients have always been really quite satisfied because I feel like I'm able to bring the two worlds together, where it's I guess more a strategic approach to the solutions that business owners are looking for. So I don't know. I'm moving out of it, as I've told you, but not a big fan of it.
But I think like the foundation of kind of what you've said is you're solving problems.
Yeah, true.
Right? You're solving problems in a certain space or industry, and so you will absolutely continue to solve problems, but probably in something that feels more aligned or more interested for you. Obviously, Be Found Brothers is this space with men and mental health, and creating brotherhood and exploring masculinity and what that means, and relationship dynamics and that side of things. So you'll still be solving problems, which is kind of what you've always done and been good at, but in a space that probably excites you more.
Yeah, no, that's really true. Yeah, thanks for that. I think the thing that probably that lights me up the most is one of the authors that I read a fair bit. I read from his book in our last thing, Carl Rogers. He talks about the micro skills, the ability to paraphrase and summarize and attend to the other person, and there's all these micro skills for counsellors. So now that I'm in the final, I'm on my placement and doing the final legs of that, I can't wait to be able to be on the other side of that, and that's probably what lights me up, is the opportunity to it's required me to go deeper. I only did it, I started that in the same year, 1 year after my dad died. I just acknowledged that I would much prefer to go, I needed to go to somebody to unpack stuff. And I couldn't find a male counsellor, and I didn't want to go to a female. I wanted to go to a male, and I wanted to find somebody local, and there were none. And I was like, okay, well, that's what I'll be. But I didn't know that there was this journey that was about to kick off, that it meant having to go into some of the deepest, darkest places. And Carl Jung talks about the shadow work and being able to face shadows, and the fact that to find light, that we have to touch the darkness.
Absolutely. And this is this reality is a perfect duality, in that there's a 0 point, there's a middle point, and you have to balance the dark and the light. It's heaven and hell. It's God and the devil. It's however you want to look at it, but hot and cold. But yeah, once you can balance that duality within yourself and recognize that you do have negative thoughts, but you also have positive thoughts, you become powerful.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's integrating the shadow, right? We've all got it. You have to integrate it.
Yes.
Use it. Know when it's showing up. It's like people say, I need to kill the ego. Man, the ego is the only reason you're still safe and alive. You know, the ego's your best friend. He just wants the best thing for you. Can he be refined? Is it important when he's to know when he's showing up? Absolutely. But is it something you want to kill? Probably not. You know, so it's this having a broader perspective of ourselves and what's happening around us.
Yeah. Yeah. Should I do one more question? Have you got one? Oh, you already asked me one.
What do you got?
What counts that we are not counting?
What counts that we're not counting? For me at the moment, the first thing that comes to mind is just these devices, social media, my phone. You know, like I'm not tracking it as well as I could be, and you know, I just find myself getting lost in that vortex a little bit. An incredible tool, grateful for it. You know, it does a lot of really good things, but it's also a real trap. So I think for me, the first thing that comes to mind is like being really accountable to my focus and energy and just recognizing where that's going.
Yes, and losing track of that.
Right.
If we don't count it, then you lose track. And so when we say count, we're really just meaning keeping track of or observing what's happening this week versus last week versus last month in terms of the time spent, would you say?
Yeah. Just own the day, you know, make today the best day you can. And how does that look? And then refine it and do it better tomorrow. And you're going to live a pretty cool life.
Is one step deeper. I don't know if this is true for you, but certainly for me, I noticed that the notion of escapism is a big one as to if I really boil down why the heck I keep going on TikTok every 5 minutes after work. It's to escape what my brain would probably want to do otherwise, perhaps.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a wild space and there's many layers to it. But yeah, the escapism. It's an instant dopamine fix. There's nothing quicker. There's nothing quicker.
Yeah.
You know? And I've been working with a client actually just last week, and she was, you know, on almost like a bender of going down some pretty gnarly rabbit holes and, you know, got lost in this vortex of wanting to be aware of certain things that are playing out in the world that maybe aren't so positive. But at the end of it, you're going, how do you feel? Rubbish. Okay. And now you've gone on this high dopamine. In terms of what you're consuming needs to be more extreme so that it can raise more dopamine until you get to that point where you're so sick of yourself and you're so like icky in your skin that you put it down. And then you've got to come off of that. You've got to detox. You've got to almost come off your bender from social media, from, you know, consuming content that is designed to be addictive and designed to elicit these responses. You know, TikTok is brilliant at that. It's got everything moving. There's the right colors, the right shapes, the right sounds. It's just the right amount of time before you flick to the next one. It's beautiful at what it is. You know, it's but you need to figure out, does it serve me? Does it not serve me? And realize that the further you go into that, the further you got to come back out. And so it's just trying to create this 0 point where you remain centered. Use it for the tool that it is. You know, have a boundary around it. You know, set a timer, jump on there for 15 minutes. Because I promise you, it's like watching the microwave, right? 15 minutes in the microwave is a long time. You know, 15 minutes of meditation is a long time. 15 minutes on TikTok is a blip. You know, I had this conversation last night actually, and it's kind of a little bit irrelevant, but this concept of time being infinite, right? And we create time, okay? And now people that teach meditation will tell you when you meditate, you're creating more time. And so we like to go, well, how does that work? Because if I meditate for an hour, it's an hour less I have in my day. Sure, but your perception of time is now slowed down, right? And so if you do an hour of TikToking, your time is sped up infinitely, right? And time is a concept. And so we can have different time spaces within spaces, which I won't go into now. But essentially, things like meditation that slow you down, slow down time. Things like TikTok that speed up time, speed up time. So if you want more time in your day, meditate. If you want to get through it quicker, TikTok. And you're actually manipulating how you perceive time in your reality, and that's all there is. Your perception of your reality is all there is to you. So if time goes really slow to you, you've got more of it. And so Einstein used to say, well, everyone's got 24 hours in a day, but he understood the concept of time being relevant, right? And so your 24 hours and my 24 hours is not the same.
Yeah, true. And for meditation, if anyone is watching that has not done it before, do you have a favourite one or a guided one that you use at all?
Yeah, but you know what? Like, it's quite uncomfortable for people, and certain minds aren't going to actually benefit from traditional styles of meditation straight away. You know, and it needs to be something more active, like going for a walk. You know, go for a walk without a device is a form of meditation.
Yeah.
You know, go and you know, get a pack of cards and build a card tower is a form of meditation. But if you want to, you know, just play around with it, close your eyes. Sit there and close your eyes and just see what happens. See how long you can keep your eyes closed for. Watch your breath. How many breaths can you count in and out before you get distracted? Light a candle. Sit there and just look at it. It doesn't need to be this cross-legged lotus pose, you know, fuck, my back's getting sore, da-da-da-da. It doesn't need to be that. And in this day and age and where we're at, I think it's important that it's not that for a lot of people in the beginning. There's a place and a time and all the rest of it. But in the beginning, have fun with it. You know, test yourself. Ask yourself that question we spoke about last time. Close your eyes. Take a few breaths. What's my next thought going to be? And you start to see the insanity of the mind. Okay? There's a concept that kind of been playing around with a few different people this week, is this idea that the mind is the masculine, right? He is the thinker, the doer, the ego, the protector. Who's he protecting? He's protecting the heart. The heart's the feminine. It's the creative. It's the flow. It's the attractive. It's the nurturer, right? It's loving. Right? So the mind sits over the heart constantly. So the heart's out here causing chaos in terms of what it wants and relationships and everything. The mind here is trying to stop and slow us down. And when we kind of understand what's playing out within us and we understand our feelings versus our thoughts and the difference between thoughts and intuition and feelings and how they all entwine, you've got a pretty good navigation system. But without it, man, life is chaos. If you don't know the difference between your thoughts and your intuition, you can't feel your emotions in your body. And that's how most of us live. And you know, like that's how I lived up until probably 3 years ago, when I was really like, okay, this isn't working for me. Why not? And you go on this deep dive into these processes of trying to figure out what's what. And you ask yourself questions like, what's my next thought going to be? And you see what happens. And you're like, holy shit, this is just a game.
Yep.
The whole thing's a game. I can manipulate all of it. And this needs to start working for me. Because you can be your best friend or your worst enemy. The choice is yours. Depending on what you feed him, right? So as I say, you are what you eat. If you feed this guy rubbish, like TikTok, you are going to get rubbish. You're going to feel rubbish. You're going to create rubbish. Your world's going to be pretty chaotic.
Yes.
But if you feed it good things and you know, seek out knowledge and mentors and wisdom and get out in the sunlight and walk the beach and do things that allow this to settle and calm down and empty, man, you become the creative being that you were meant to be. And you can do anything.
Some really good tips of things that you could do even tomorrow to switch it up a bit. I had used, the very first one I ever watched was by the Honest Guys. They do a 10-minute just guided meditation. I found guided mindfulness, and I found that to be really helpful. That TikTok song that goes, when will it, when did it end, all the enjoyment?
I don't know.
Oh, by Billie Eilish. I'll have to skip those videos. I can't stand that song. It's so repetitive. And a lot of viral videos have that song on them.
Okay, no, I don't know it.
Apparently, to go viral, the advice is to choose a song that's already gone viral and to copy other people's content that's already gone viral. So,
I mean, like, how mind-numbing is that?
yeah, exactly.
What?
Yeah.
What?
I'll just share. So what counts that we're not counting for be found for me? Probably what counts that we're not counting is, in terms of the thing that sort of stood out to me is probably in terms of the advertising, kind of like the budget sort of finance component. Everything kind of just all comes out of one account. I've all set it up, and there's a lot of subscription stuff that is just on auto and is just coming out. And I did a clean out about 6 months ago, but I think I need to do another clean out again, and because it just comes out. And when you're in the thick of it and you're trying to quickly do stuff, you're like, yep, I'll buy that app, I'll get this, I'll get that, or whatever. But then you end up with this list of all $10, $20 things a month, and it's like freaking ends up being expensive, eh?
Yeah.
So what counts that we're not counting? And I say all of that to say, is from my client's point of view, they're actually they're the same. There's a couple of my clients, particularly, I'm thinking of, where that it's like, what are all the things that are coming out monthly, and what is really important, the must-have stuff, and can some of it be put on pause? Like, does it all have to come out every month, or do I really need to have all of that stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a really good one, just to sit and go through your bank accounts and look at what you're spending.
It's crazy, eh? Should we do our books?
Yeah, go for it. What do you got?
Okay. We both got 2 books, but I only have very short ones. This one is called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway by Susan Jeffers. It's an incredible book. The last part stood out to me. The last part of the whole book, and it's her parting comments, but the chapter is called There Is Plenty of Time. And it's just some last pieces of advice that she's giving the readers. And she says, say yes to life, participate, move, act, write, read, sign up, take a stand, or do whatever it takes for you. Get involved in the process. As Rollo May wrote in Man's Search for Himself, every organism has one and only one central need in life: to fulfill its own potentials. He goes on to say that joy is the result of using our powers to their fullest, and for that reason, joy, not happiness, is the goal of life. And she says, so commit yourself to pushing through the fear and becoming more than you are at the present moment. The you that could be is absolutely colossal. You don't need to change what you're doing. Simply commit to learning how to bring to whatever you do in life the loving and powerful energy of your higher self. Whether you're a bank teller, a housewife, a corporate executive, a film producer, a salesman, or lawyer, or whatever it is, it's yours to give. As you live this way, moment by moment, day by day, in perfect time, you will find yourself moving closer and closer to home.
Yeah, I love that.
That's cool, hey?
Love that.
Feel the fear and do it anyway.
It's a beautiful thing about these books, often they're saying similar things, but in very different ways. And
Yeah.
you just got to keep going till that one clicks for you.
Yeah. What I'm finding is a lot of what we talk about is summarised in the books that we end up reading.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
What's your book?
I've got Ask and It's Given by Esther and Jerry Hicks, which is a teaching of Abraham, which it's been channeled. And I'm really enjoying these kind of topics at the moment, simply because I find them easy to read and the information resonates.
Yes.
But this was, the longer you think your thoughts, the stronger they become. And this is kind of this concept of what we're touching on around emotions. And so, as you achieve a stronger alignment with any thought, you then begin to feel the emotions that indicate your increased or decreased alignment with your own source. Okay? In other words, as you give more of your attention to any subject, your emotional reading of either harmony or disharmony with who you really are becomes stronger. If the subject of your attention is in alignment with what your source of your being knows, you would feel the harmony of your thoughts in the form of good feelings. But if the subject of your attention is not in alignment with what your source knows it to be, you would feel the disharmony of your thoughts in the form of bad feelings. And so all this means is, if you are thinking about something and focusing on that something, and you feel not so great, it's not in alignment with your highest good. Yeah, if you're focusing on something and putting your attention into it, and you feel good, keep going. Keep going. But the problem is, we're making our decisions based on how we're feeling, and we're not recognizing that our feelings have come from the thing we've been thinking about. And so we're reacting to the feeling, and we're jumping into the phone, we're jumping into the Netflix series, the whatever, to distract us from what we're feeling. But we haven't recognized that the thought created the feeling. And so when we go one deeper, which is a concept I know you're working on, and we go back to, okay, what's the thought process? What's just happened? Who just texted me? What was I just thinking about? and now I'm feeling this way, when you can kind of flip that on its head and you make your default thinking and thoughts ones that feel good, good things start to happen. Because when you feel good, good things show up. You feel bad, bad things show up. And so you're responsible for how you feel in terms of creating your thoughts to align with who you want to be and where you want to go. And this is just confirmation that it's exactly that.
Yeah, that's a deep one, isn't it? And it's so true that that we can be people that either make the decision to go on that journey or not.
Absolutely. And that's what she just spoke into here. You know, seek the joy. Do the things that are going to give you more experiences, that are going to fill your buckets with knowledge and wisdom, and you're going to feel good. When you feel good, more good things come.
Yes.
Because you get more of what you focus on.
I got my second book here. Have you got two?
No.
Oh. Well, this is a very, probably everyone knows it, Man's Search for Meaning. It was by Viktor Frankl, who was in the Auschwitz camp. And he talked a lot about hope, but just a really quick part of, I feel like that, really summarizes his whole kind of mandate. He talks about what new dynamics is. And he says, to be sure, man's search for meaning may arouse inner tension rather than inner equilibrium. However, precisely such tension is an indispensable prerequisite of mental health. There is nothing in the world, I venture to say, that would so effectively help one to survive even the worst conditions as the knowledge that there is meaning in one's life. There is much wisdom in the words of Nietzsche, who he said, he who has a why to live for can bear almost any how. And really that's all he talks, well, he talks about a lot of stuff, but he attributes his survival in the camps to his the why and the hope that he gained from the fact that he was a psychologist and he was given a role or given a particular thing to do during his couple of years in there or however long they spent in there. And it's just interesting that comes through as the purpose that we kind of cultivate or we ascribe to whatever our life is, that actually could be a real key for those struggling with mental health. I probably for me, I also probably find the journey I've gone on a little bit, even without purpose or just discovering that my purpose wasn't really, my purpose has shifted and changed and whatever, and it's sort of like, I don't know whether there needs to be an actual purpose, like, for those who say I'm unsure or I don't know or I haven't got one. It's sort of like, but those people, if we even think about the power of now, and we read some of that book, it's like, but you can be present now, even though you don't have the information or you don't have the unknown. You can have unknown and still feel a sense of, security and a sense of, who you are. And, I guess who we are may not necessarily always have to be intrinsically linked to what we say our purpose is, maybe.
I'd agree, yeah. Yeah, but it's interesting space, purpose, passion, purpose.
So true.
Find your why, all those things.
Is there should we do one piece of advice, what's one encouragement we could give to people? I feel like my encouragement in this moment as I'm sitting here, my encouragement would be for people who are asking the question of, should I embark on a kind of journey of asking inner questions? And I feel like, the answer would, from me to you, would be yes, do. And you could start that journey by simply asking, who do you feel you are at the moment? And maybe even writing a couple of dot points of who are you? Not who do other people say you are, not who would your work colleagues say you are if I asked them, but who are you? And it will put you on this a little bit of a journey to intrinsically discover who you think you are at the moment, and whether or not there's some positive. You could even find that there's some negative in that as well, but not to judge it, not to label it, but just to let it come through as well. Who do you say you are right now? And it kind of like, I feel like I did that a few years ago, and it kind of put me on that kind of a bit of a trajectory to discover more. What's your encouragement, Henry?
Yeah, same as you. That question of
Really?
who am I was a big one for me in my own journey. But I think if I could encourage anyone to do anything, it's move into any interaction, whether it's comfortable or uncomfortable. Ask yourself, what would love do? Right? Because we make so many decisions from fear. Right? And if we just start to move with a place of love, and what would love do in this interaction, every interaction, we start to set ourselves free. We start to act from a space of self-love. But then when everyone does that, things change very, very quickly. Just not being scared in your choices, but being empowered to choose for you.
Yeah, or just even that whole notion of being open to contemplating that.
Yeah, ask yourself the hard questions.
Yeah.
But not from a place of fear, from a place of curiosity and self-love.
Curiosity, I like that one. You have a July intake coming up of, is it Pneuma process?
Yeah, yep. So that's this immersion, self-mastery immersion that we go through the mind, the body, the soul. There's 3 ways of doing it. You can do it on a solo journey, which is it's created for people that kind of don't necessarily want to share. They just want to take their time. It's self-paced. Then yes, a couple of times a year I will do a container as such, usually with 6 to 8 people, where we go through and unpack the whole thing together over 13 weeks. That's probably my most favorite way of doing it, because you get so many beautiful perspectives, and you create a really safe container with other people that can share, and you've got men and women in there, so you're getting all these different dynamics, and everyone's kind of doing the same thing, answering the same questions. Obviously, you've taken yourself through it as well and kind of familiar with how it works, but coming together in those sessions each week is really potent. And then the third way is obviously we do it one-on-one, and I take you through it, and we can really kind of deep dive and unpack, and obviously, that's a very different dynamic again to say doing something in a journey, depending on where you're at and how much you want to share. Some people do or don't like doing that in the containers, but to be honest, I've done quite a few of them now, and who everyone is at the beginning is so different to the end, and create some really, really beautiful friendships and bonds and stuff. So yes, I have one of those running in July.
Yeah, cool. So people can reach out.